And it's been one of those technical issues where my voice wasn't loud enough, and I think it was me, but we don't really know why. So I've turned it up to 11 on my mixer and hope that everybody can hear me out in the real world.
Yeah, and I'm really hoping the little noise that I've got extra in my ear is just for me, and that no one else sort of gets that. And hey, let's see. We'll
Yeah,
discover as we go, right, Tim?
that's the thing. I can always do it in post production, so it can only be the poor people on LinkedIn and Twitter and Facebook who will get it now. So if it's too loud on the recordings, I can lower it down, and YouTube will be like, "Oh, this is wonderful."
Excellent.
Anyway, this week we have the amazing Mike Cole of the husband and wife duo at is it Millico? It's like,
Milico, yeah, that's right, Milico.
and that's a kind of an amalgamation of your name, I presume.
It
So,
is indeed.
for anybody, for the 1% of the global population who haven't been aware of your massive fame, could you describe who you are and what you do, and what's Millico do?
Bless you. What an intro.
Yeah,
It might be slightly more than 1%, but absolutely happy to share. So we're all about making work better for everyone. We do that with small business owners. We do that with employees. We do that with leaders in larger businesses, and we genuinely believe and want to see people thrive in their work.
yeah,
And one of the big things sort of motivating us to do that is we've seen the power that happens, the magic that happens when people lean into what makes them really special, where they lean into the things they find are core strengths, or just that they really I almost use a Hotel Transylvania phrase of the Z. That there's something really special in these zones. But finding them and leaning into them and sort of really owning them can be a challenge for many people. So we help people do that, and we do that in different ways, but all through the Millico group, which is our group. You're absolutely right, Mike Liz Cole, Millico.
yeah.
And it's a lot of fun, to help people on their journey.
Okay, so one of the things that I've always found unique about you is you work both with like entrepreneurs and also with people in their careers. So like somebody could be a corporate executive or something. How did you end up with those two? I mean, normally people would specialize on one or the other, but why did you end up with both? And is that because you feel that it's the same thing that you're doing for both, but just in slightly different ways?
So I guess like the really short answer probably is yes, it feels like we're doing roughly the same thing for both. The longer answer probably comes back to more of a journey to get there, but also although we're trying to help both sets of people or groups of people, for them and the people around them. So for a leader, it might be about helping them engage with their team and help their team step into what makes them special, or it could be helping the leader step into what's special. As an employee, it could be about taking real ownership for your own career. And what does that really mean? Because that can sound quite daunting. But actually, again, leaning into what really works. And then small business owners, the world is full of shoulds for us. Well, you should do this, or other people do these things in certain ways. Um, and so people end up doing it when it doesn't necessarily fit them brilliantly the way they've structured the business. So each one of those, the skills we bring, effectively the same skills. The way that we need to talk about it is different, just so that the person we're helping, the prospect or the client for us, really understands it in their terms, because obviously we want to help people where they're at, and so we need to use the language that resonates with them, that they understand. But from our brain, inside our heads and the way that we're structuring the world, actually we're doing effectively the same thing. So we are going a bit against the tide here, as you know, Tim. Niching is highly encouraged.
Yeah.
It's better to talk about one sort of key message and get into that. And so we've made a slightly harder world for ourselves by having these sort of differing languages, but actually the core principles behind them are the same.
Okay. And have you ever encouraged somebody from from like being an entrepreneur back to an employee, or from an employee to an entrepreneur? Because I suppose that's something you're uniquely placed. You're not like shoehorned into like, oh, if I recommend that they actually do this, then I'm going to lose them as a client.
Well, so probably a few things to pull out from there. So first off, the most important thing for us, for me, but for Liz as well, my wife,
Yeah.
and co-founder of Milico, is the client does the right thing for the client. And so if that means they no longer need to work with us, And to be honest, I think that in many ways that's a great thing. So we're here to help when they're needed. I recently heard a coach describe this kind of coaching as structure pain for someone who's maybe hurt their leg. For the period of time they've hurt their leg, that structural pain can be invaluable. But the ultimate aim is to not need to structure the pain for the rest of their life. Like to have a moment where they can like strip it away and be like, yay, I don't need it anymore. And actually, for some business owners, that's such a scary concept. Oh no, but we're losing revenue. But actually, in our industry, that's something to be celebrated. Someone who's ready to go out and do it. They don't need our particular help anymore, and that's exactly right. So we expect to journey with people for a period of time. We expect them to probably not need us again for a while, and maybe they'll come back, or maybe they'll get the support in a different way from someone else. And that's fab, because ultimately we want the best thing for our clients. When it comes to this book idea, the honest answer is no. I've never had a conversation with someone where I suppose actually I don't encourage people to take a step. I help them explore what's going on in their head. I bring insights to different perspectives and to consider. You've got to bring it back to what they want to do and say, I've never encouraged someone to move to, friction into the other. But has anyone, as a result of working with me, left? So I've got one person in mind in particular did a career development program with me. They mapped out an amazing career plan ahead of them. And they worked out that actually the main thing they wanted to do was relocate halfway around the world. And the best way of doing that was to switch from being employed in the UK to doing freelance. And they do now work with me in the small business world, which is kind of really cool as well. So there is someone who's done it. At no point did I encourage them to do that step. I just helped them work out what they wanted to do that was good in their life for them.
Okay. Well, you cut out a little bit there, but I'm not sure if it's me or the sound or whatever. But
I'm going to change the mic now one just in case. So just let me click over.
well, yes, I'll have a sip of coffee, and hopefully the poor guys at the end who watch this live, if there's anybody watching it live, won't be blown that I've blown. I could sort out all the audio issues in Ring, I hope, but
Okay. Well, hopefully is that better?
that is
Can you? Okay.
Yeah.
Fab. All right.
Me too. So, what are the most common challenges for both somebody who's maybe somebody's found you on the internet because they're having trouble with that? They've got to. I mean, when it's somebody in the career path, is it more middle management people, or is it somebody on the bottom thing? Like, who is the sort of person? Well, let's start with that and forget about entrepreneurs for now. We'll talk about that in a minute. But on those people on the career path, is it people at the bottom? And what are the most common things that you help them with? Is it just talking to them about their issues, or there's like a checklist of things you go through with them to help them on that the journey?
Most of the people I'm working with are, I'm not sure if middle managers is quite the right expression in the UK, but that concept is right. So they're more advanced in their careers. They're typically professionals and what I would consider, so they're office workers, or work from home workers, but the concept, right? They're probably behind a computer. More than likely, they are a professional who has become a chartered accountant or marketeer. They've done procurement. They've done some form of sort of chartered institute style level of qualification, and so they're pretty invested into the career they've chosen. And they don't have to be, but they're probably 10, 15, maybe 20 years into that journey. And typically what's happened is they set off, they I don't know, did their degree or whatever their entry was. What could be an apprenticeship was fine too. And again, for me, it doesn't make any difference. They've set off on this exciting trajectory, and that's all brilliant. And maybe the trajectory is not being as steep as they wanted, but they've seen progress, right, year and year and year, and they're excited, and it's really good. And then about 10 years in, that progress really can tail off. And then somewhere between the 10 and 20 years, there can be a moment where people think this isn't really what I want for the next 20. Like, I'm not unhappy with where I am, but I am unhappy that this sort of path seems to have leveled. And typically it's leveled at a place that isn't, it's not good enough for that person. Like they're left feeling unfulfilled. And if I can extend on that to the biggest challenge that I see, the biggest challenge by far in this space is that people are doing. So I talk of Okaysville, right? This idea that we've got
Yeah.
real strengths that make us incredible and amazing, and when we're working in that, we're on fire, and it's almost effortless. It can almost be energizing, despite being actually like we're still pouring our heart and soul into what we're doing. Get really, really buzzy about that stuff. Often very easy. Often we overlook it because we think, "Wow, it's easy though," which is a real shame. We have the other end. We have the sort of weakness. We're underperforming. We're really struggling. Maybe we're even on a burning platform. Like if we don't do something about it, we could get fired. We're going to get disciplined. In small business world, we'll be losing clients and all sorts of stuff. And then, so we've got these two ends of this scale, right? What I call the ability scale. And in the middle, quite a big section, I call Okaysville. It's just, we're okay. We're okay what we do. We don't get, we get reasonable reviews at the end of the year when they say, how have you done? They give us a good grade, maybe above good grade, but not an outstanding grade. We get okay pay rises. We have an okay holiday. We have an okay car, an okay house, literally like everything's okay. And yet, if I'm honest, we all know that we're built for more. We're built for better than okay. Now, what is great for somebody and what is great for someone else is different. That's brilliant. So we don't all need the same thing. Yet, when we live in this space of like, it's okay. If you think of a 0 to 10 scale, which as a coach I do on a regular basis, I ask people about, we're talking about the 6 and 7s. Because a 4 you're probably going to do something about, and an 8 and a 9 you're probably in an okay, like actually not okay. You're probably in a like, oh, actually quite enjoy this space. But your 6 and 7s are like, it's all comfy, and I just keep going, but I don't feel fulfilled, and I don't feel special enough. And actually, it's probably quite hard work. So we don't feel fired up about a Monday morning or a Sunday night because we're like, oh no. That lot, I really, really, really want to get at anyone, no matter what job they do, no matter where they are, anyone who feels that, I would like to get in front of and try and persuade that they really can be in this like special zone where they're delivering this great value, where they're going to get recognized and rewarded for it. And so they're going to get the better life, but actually that even if they didn't get more money for it, which they will, they'll just enjoy what they're doing more. They will have more impact. They will see that more impact, which gives you more reward, which makes you feel better. And I just want to get people up into there. And here's the really scary thing. The main reason people don't do it, it's a bold statement. The main reason people don't do it, two main reasons. One, or two bits to it. They don't know that life can be different. And two, they don't realize that they can change it. They don't need their boss to change it. They don't need to go on a 10-year program working out, they don't need 1,000 steps. They don't need, it's really putting yourself back in the driving seat of your own career and going, okay, I want to change this. I want to shift this. And actually there's some relatively simple, they're not hacks. They're not like short tricks. It's a process, but there is a relatively simple process you can go through to start shifting things so that you are doing more and more in those special zones, or you're discovering more and more of where those special zones are. And the thing is, when you do that, your boss typically takes real notice. And so you get more of them because they're like, oh, wow, you just solved this massive problem we've had for ages. Have some more of that sort of problem, or go help somewhere else with that sort of problem. It's amazing how it fuels itself. So yeah, that's like, it would be so good to get after that bit, which is effectively have a plan. But first you've got to believe that that you deserve better and that it's possible. And there's loads of case studies I could share. I mean, it really is possible, and it really isn't that hard, but you need to want it.
So I'm going to be cynical, Tim, here. I was cynical, Tim, on my book chat live yesterday when I was talking to somebody who was talking about leadership books, actually, ironically. What about what exactly do you help people with? So in terms of, like, you've identified somebody, they're a 7 out of 10 when they could be a 10 out of 10 or 9 out of 10 or even an 8 out of 10. But I know there's all this like you can create you can think it in your mind that you're going to be a 10, but there must be practical things. It's not just about, because a lot of people are good at some things but they might not necessarily enjoy it, or they enjoy some things but they're not necessarily good at them. So what, apart from the belief thing, which I'm sure, well, I know from experience, a lot of people experience, a lot of people don't believe, and that is a big problem in terms of employees. But what are the practical things, like what are the kind of the most common like things in the real world that people can change to improve their career structure? Is it, apart from the obviously believing they can do it, so to speak?
Yeah, so the believing you can do it bit is almost like a binary switch, isn't it?
Yeah,
You either do or you don't believe. And if you don't believe, it's a little bit of that, whether it's attributed to Henry Ford. I've got half a feeling it's not him,
yeah,
but it's the
it
if
is
you believe you
difficult.
can or
Yeah,
you can't, you're right.
yeah,
So you start by going, actually, I can control this. Like, this is within my power and my destiny to change. The next thing, it's interesting you said about you might not be very good at it, but you might enjoy it, or you might be good at something and not enjoy it. And
mm,
so the coach in me goes, oh, I'd love to dig into that, like take some examples and actually explore what's really going on, because I suspect you could drill down to the bit that you enjoy actually being something you are good at, but it's probably surrounded with bits
yeah,
that you're not yet good at. And there's definitely this idea that some things we just haven't yet had enough skill. So
yeah,
yeah, enough time to develop. So that may be a real strength area, but right now we suck at it. And that's just because we've just not done it enough. So I'm not persuading anyone to step away from that. We need to do those bits to see where we can be great and
yeah,
enhance ourselves. What I find, there's a couple of lovely giveaways. If you're in an office, if you're an employee, if people come and ask you how to solve a problem, but Tim, uh, I'm really stuck with this. How would you solve this problem? If it's the sort of one that it seems that people keep coming and asking you, and it seems
yeah,
like you answer quite easily, and it seems like if someone asks you at the end of the day, as you put your coat on, you're walking out the door, maybe you're even like 2 minutes late, right? As in you're sort of thinking, oh, I'm meant to be somewhere. And they ask you, it's the sort of question that makes you stop and go, yeah, go on. I'll spend 5 minutes explaining that. Those, they're the gems, because it's basically easy. People are already noticing that's an area that we can really help others at, right? They're asking us, hopefully, because we're particularly good at that. And I'd suggest that if we're prepared to sacrifice some other things for it, it's probably an area that we actually enjoy.
yeah,
Um, and so that, to me, that's a fantastic sign. So then what happens is we get volunteered to go and do stuff in other areas,
yeah,
or that so take, I said about a scale earlier, right?
yeah,
The ability scale. You could literally draw a line out, right? Put a midpoint on it doesn't matter left or right, but I'm going to say left to me would be weaknesses, most of the way down there, and on the right, probably top pit of the right, I'd put strengths. So we've got a decent gap in the middle
yeah,
between the two, and you can literally map out. And I encourage clients to do this sometimes. Where are your tasks?
yeah,
So the stuff you're doing could be projects, but it might be more detailed than projects. That might be too big a thing. We might need to get into more of the kind of 45-minute, hour-long task things that you're doing, or half-hour tasks. Where are they? And if you literally just like write them as a list and then write the numbers on this ability scale, any that are low down, you want to swap.
yeah,
Now, as a small business owner, it's relatively easy. You outsource it,
yeah,
right? Well, two things you do. The first thing you actually do is say, "Can I just not do it?" Right? So,
yeah,
can I take it out of my product? Maybe I don't like being on video. So, what if I just did Voxer calling
yeah,
instead of Zoom, for example? In this, so small businesses, you can do that, but if it's critical, you can outsource it. Okay, great. That brings you back into your strengths. That's nice. As an employee, oh no, how do you do it?
mm,
Well, we just need to get a little bit more creative. So if we can, so let's take something that's in our weaknesses, and let's look at everyone else in the wider team. These are probably peers of ours, and say, who is good at that? Who is
yeah,
if I could pick anyone out of this to go and deliver that thing, who would I go and pick? And what is there? If they did this exercise, what would they put in their weaknesses? In other
Yeah.
words, can we do a swap? So if
Yeah.
they help me out with this bit and I help them out with that thing, then I've rebalanced the workload between us. So I'm not asking them to do more. They hopefully enjoy that bit that I'm struggling at. I'll enjoy the bit they're struggling at. But guess what happens to the overall quality of what we're doing? In
Yeah.
both
Good luck.
cases, it lifts.
Yeah.
And in theory, you've just gone really loud, Tim. So I don't know if
Oh,
the microphone is suddenly got happy or sad or whatever. The oh, the tech fun we're having.
yeah.
Um, so this idea of basically trading. Now, I'd like to think if you've got a good manager, you could actually sit and have the conversation with your manager. In fact, I'd encourage it if you've done this mapping out exercise, which is as simple as map out the tasks, like literally write them down, number them onto an ability scale, go talk to your manager about it. These
Yeah.
sit in an area that basically I suck at and I don't like doing and I find boring and horrible. I think Smith happens to be really good at those. I think Smith might find some of the things I'm really good at a bit of a challenge. Can we just do a swap? Like, can we do an informal? Can we do a formal swap? And the manager might not be happy, so you might want to think I'll do it informally and just prove it out. Or hopefully you've got a good manager, you can have those sort of conversations. And I think I I don't know, about 8, 9 years ago, I inherited a team who'd been working on a project for about 6 months and
Mm.
they hadn't made the progress that was expected of them. And I remember we reworked a plan and we sat down and we had to get through all these different technical issues in all sorts of different areas. And we basically had an expert from all different things. You're an IT expert, a business expert, a finance expert. That was me, in theory. There's a whole bunch of, like
Yeah.
legal or whatever, a whole bunch of different experts. And what happened is everyone was nitpicking at each other, right? So the business person was nitpicking at the tech person. Oh, no. Oh, I don't like the system that you're picking.
Mm.
And so one of the first things I did was we went round the table and we called out the strengths of each other.
Yeah.
And do you know what? After that, everyone started to recognize why each team member was there, and of course,
Yeah.
why they weren't there, as in, they're there to help me in that area. Why am I
Yeah.
asking them about why do a vote on the IT system when I have an IT expert? I just want the IT
Yeah.
expert to tell me the right answer,
Mm.
okay? I don't want everyone else's vote because they're not educated enough. Well, I mean, they are, but, like, they're not the specialists, and I have one IT expert and 8 people on this team, so the IT expert can get outvoted every time. That's mad. We need a wiser way of having these discussions. And so I just help the team see the strengths of the individuals. And from there, over the next 6 months, they did and implemented a year-long program in
Yeah.
half the time because everyone lent into where they're strong and weren't asking people to deliver what they weren't strong at. And so I've had first-hand experience of the game-changing effect of doing this.
Oh, yeah.
Um, and then obviously I do it a lot with my clients because it's good fun, very impactful.
Well, hopefully, I'm not bursting your eardrums at the moment.
We're good.
To
It's
yeah.
okay.
Um, let's talk about the entrepreneur side. So, as you said, like in some ways, entrepreneurs and small business people have much more freedom. So they don't have this boss to convince or these other people to negotiate with. But presumably there are other issues with entrepreneurs. So let's talk a little bit about the entrepreneur specific issues that you face on that side of the business that maybe you don't with employees.
Yeah. So the biggest challenge, or I don't know, actually, the biggest, I'm leaping in with that one. One of the instant challenges that I think faces small business owners is the requirement to be good at a lot of different stuff.
Yeah.
So most small business owners, me included, went in to do their thing because they loved one thing. I love coaching. I'm good at coaching. I've pivoted out of corporate finance to come and be a coach. But actually, I need to be a marketeer. I need to be a salesperson. I need to be a finance person. Well, thankfully, I've got that one in the bag. But you've suddenly got all these extra things. And, if you can't if you don't publicize yourself enough, which we could call marketing, but it's even just having the confidence to be like, I'm a coach. Do you know, I'm a good coach, being able to articulate the
Yeah.
kind of coach you are, that sort of thing. If you can't do those things, then that's going to make it really hard. If you can't, when someone's interested in working with you, explain what your products and services are in a way that helps them recognize if they need
Mm.
them, which is sales, then we're in trouble. And so I think there's a fundamental kind of broad skill problem. But that's not where I largely help people with. I mean, I do help people with elements of all of those bits, but I'm not a sales coach. I'm not a marketing coach
Yeah.
in that way. What I see most is, let's take a copywriter, for example, and they're basically they're leaning into what they think people expect of them
Yeah.
rather than what made them special. So they've got into it because they're really good at copywriting. Maybe they're a great blog writer, but maybe they're finding it hard to sell blogs right now. So they get into doing, let's say, shorter articles on LinkedIn, like LinkedIn posts for people or something like that. And they're good at it, but it isn't the thing that sets them on fire. They're missing the depth that they get when they got into the blog piece. This is entirely hypothetical, by the way. So one, sorry if it's a lame hypothetical, but two, if you think of someone it sounds relevant for, that's also not true. Just to
Yeah.
put that one out there for anyone listening. Um, so, um, but if we can own the reason we got into it is about the blog writing piece. Okay,
Yeah.
great. So how do you shape your business the best way to do that? And then people end up saying, well, my clients expect a phone call every whatever. It's got to be a call. We've got to spend half an hour on the phone. And you're like, okay, fine. But what's the purpose of the call? What's the outcome? How does it help you? Do you like having that call? No. Okay.
Yeah.
Is there another way of doing it? And actually, I think this is, I would leave encouragement for anyone listening that's an entrepreneur or small business owner. I would leave the huge encouragement to look at the way you want to do it
Yeah.
and then try and work a solution that fits you. And if I, think of, have you had Laura Robinson on this show? I can imagine you have at some point.
Yeah. Yes.
Fantastic.
I
I
think
reckon
so.
you probably, I think you
She's the
must have
one who
actually.
works with Janine Coombs. Is that right? Or
Uh,
is that somebody else?
I'm thinking of someone else for that. Although
Ah,
I don't want to now throw loads of names out and then, I don't know, cause
I
trouble.
don't know is the answer.
That's
Probably
fine.
not.
So the
Yeah.
lady called Laura Robinson from Worditude, fantastic. So she is a
Yeah.
copywriter, although now she does a lot
Oh, no, I
around
don't think we ever heard
wider
of.
courses and
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
She quite publicly has said how Zoom tires her. She finds video
Yeah.
calls sort of really tiring. So she just started using Voxer, and she
Yeah.
designed her program to work with Voxer support. The reason I use her as an example, she's the first person that I personally know who switched to that model. I now know quite a few people I'm going to say followed, but it doesn't necessarily mean they've
Yeah.
copied her, but equally it's fine. What I love about Laura is she said, that way doesn't work for me. This way does work for me. I'm just going to do it this way. The reason we typically don't is we think, but our clients
Everybody
might not
else.
like
Yeah.
that, right? What if they need the Zoom? And actually, the real answer is some of them will hate Zoom too. Some
Yeah.
of them will love doing it on Voxer, and you want to attract those people because they will be buzzy about doing it that your way. And some people will be indifferent and be like, "All right, I don't really mind. I don't mind. Okay, fine. I can if someone else needs me to use Voxer, I use Voxer. That is, um, someone like Laura, then fine. If I want to work with her, I'll use Voxer with her. So, and then there'll be some people who go, well, I don't like it. It's not for me. That's fine because we don't want to appeal to everyone. We want to appeal to the people who like our style because we will have a really good working relationship with.
Yeah.
The people that don't really like our style, if we try and shoehorn ourselves into someone else's style, it's just harder work for us. We're burning more energy just to be in the shoebox, let alone then deliver. And that's going to hurt us. We're not going to deliver as much value and quality as a result.
Okay. Um, there was another question. I'm going to fit this an extra question in, go over a few minutes.
That's
Um,
fine by me.
yeah. When you're dealing with people who are back to the normal, the normies, the people who are working in the career progression, do I mean? Is it in my mind? I never don't think I ever knew anybody who employed a coach, so they might have kept it confidential. Is that a big thing that you find is a problem that a lot of people in a career just won't even think about reaching out to a coach to trying to help them in their career? And are you do you have to sign like NDAs and things that make sure that no you don't publicize that aspect? I mean, how does that kind of process work, or have you not found that an issue at all?
Yeah. So NDAs, yes, absolutely. Confidentiality is absolutely critical in what I do. Um, that's, to help explore someone's thoughts, I need them to be open. So I need
Yeah,
them to be in a safe space that they can do that. I need to be in a safe space that they can do that. And we need to know that doesn't go anywhere. There are some boundaries around that confidentiality. So it's not legally privileged. If they tell me
Yeah.
of a major crime, I can't ignore it.
Yeah.
So I encourage them not to tell me. In the same, I don't think anyone has committed a major crime, I
Yeah.
should add. But it works
Yeah.
both ways. That's always the way I put it to make it feel a bit more jokey.
Yeah.
If I tell them I've buried someone in my patio, they can't ignore it in
Yeah.
the same way I can't if they tell me. But in reality, so it's confidential in all ways except through sort of level
Yeah.
of legal privilege in the courts. So yes, NDAs are definitely a thing. I find the sort of middle managers, for want of a better phrase, they are quite. Uh, we've got two things going on. So we've got chief executives. I would expect pretty much all chief executives to have a coach, or
Yeah.
to have had a coach within the last 18 months. And if they haven't had one within the last 12, they're probably about to get one again. It seems that we would expect someone like a chief executive to have an active coach who is helping them. And I'd expect them to rotate different coaches over time. Not all do, and that's fine. Um, that's expected, right? They earn the big bucks, they make the big decisions. Of course, they have
Yeah.
a coach. Those coaches, of course, charge pretty high amounts of money, right? And that's fine. No bugbear about it at all. What we don't seem to recognise is there are coaches that are much cheaper
Yeah.
who could have a similar cost effect return. So let's say that coach helps get a 5 times return on every single hour spent on decisions, maybe even a 10, 15 times return on the money invested.
Yeah.
The same could be true lower down with someone with a smaller budget that's responsible for smaller but still significant decisions in a business unit, paying less to a coach. The same return ratio is there. What's fascinating to me is that chief execs, it's kind of expected in that sort of the C-suite.
Yeah.
I think it's actively encouraged. It's like, oh yeah, do I get to work with a coach? Oh, isn't that good? Below it, it seems to switch from being this sort of badge of honor, look what I've got, to almost like you're underperforming if you have one, and that's insane.
Yeah.
And the bit that really frustrates me around the mindset of that is it's like saying, of course you expect if you're trying to be in the Olympics, of course we expect you to have a trainer and for you to go to the gym. But
Yeah.
if you're trying to represent your county at a national level, in other words, still at a really decent level, but just not in the absolute very, very top echelons, you shouldn't have a coach and shouldn't go to the gym.
Hmm.
No, that would be insane. Of course, you're still going to work with someone. Of course, you're still going to go to the gym. Why wouldn't you? And I think it's a very odd switch, and I don't understand it. And I hope and expect that over time that'll change.
Yeah. Well, I think it's also a bit of a British American thing. I think a lot of the coaching side of things has traditionally been more American, and maybe that's why American businesses have been better, more successful.
Yeah.
Who
So I
knows?
I don't know about whether American businesses are more successful. I'll happily leave that for for a thought another
Yeah,
day.
well, that's a bit of a
But Americans, certainly the my perception of
yeah,
American culture, largely from TV, so I
yeah,
don't know how accurate it is, but it seems typical that American would have a therapist.
yeah,
And it feels typical that in the UK, if you have a therapist, you're in some way broken. Just to be clear, I
yeah,
do not think you're broken if you've got a therapist in
yeah,
the UK. But there seems to be a much more, again, that gym analogy. We seem to accept in the US and the UK that if you want to be healthier, it's probably good to go to the gym and work out in some way, swim or whatever. Americans seem a bit more aware of taking the same proactive attitude to their mental health than we do. We seem to take a reactive, oh,
yeah,
I've broken or I'm in a bad space, therefore I need help, rather than let me do some stuff to make sure I don't end up in that
yeah,
space. Yeah, which I don't. I wonder if it's to do with that therapy piece. Although coaching is very much not therapy, I wonder if it's linked in the mindset.
yeah,
But I don't. I have no backing for that. Just suspicion.
yeah. No, I mean, it's a similar um, decision, I suppose. I mean, I've always been a bit tight with money, so that's why I wouldn't wouldn't pay for coaches and things. But the more as I get older, I mean, this is I think is one of the big problems actually with being self-employed in that you should spend money on things that bring you growth, whether that's outsourcing something or getting a coach or buying a particular bit of software that does something you don't like. But then you're like, oh, I've got to earn the money to pay for that, or it's going to be too expensive. And I think that's a real issue. Certainly in the UK, we're very much more less risk averse in that regard, even if the return is kind of obvious.
Yeah. So so a few thoughts on that one. One of the small business world,
Yeah,
I love coaching in both areas, right? But
yeah,
one of the things that makes selling into the small business world so much easier is give me half an hour of time and I will give you a significant return on it.
yeah,
Um, and I can back myself doing that. I mean, there are a few caveats to it. So, for example, you need to actually have a problem that I can help you with, because if you have a
yeah,
problem and I can't help you with, then it doesn't work. But typically, well, not typically, the people I work with, for every let let's say for every £200 they spend with me, they'll get a. I'm looking for a 5-time return,
yeah,
so £1,000 back. The thing is, if someone comes and works with you and then instantly makes £500 back, so they've made all their money probably
yeah,
twice over straight away, then it's not a big deal to think, do I want to keep doing this for a bit, right?
yeah,
Um, and so that to me, it's a really easy proposition, and the way I help people do that is I gift 10, 15 minutes of coaching for free
yeah,
on a very regular basis, and that helps people. And having helped someone, they felt the benefit of coaching. It's up to them if they think that's worth then investing more in or not. But they, do
yeah.
you know what I mean? That it
Oh, yeah,
changes the calculation. The
dynamics. Yeah,
the problem in employees is it's a longer time frame. So
yeah,
if you want to get more money, for working less hours, feeling less stressed, a lot of the emotional stuff you can get very fast return. For literally getting more money, then you're probably working a plan around how you're going to renegotiate your salary or
yeah,
moving. In which case, you're looking at skills gaps, you're closing skills gaps, you're looking at longer term trajectories, you're looking at networking and basically
yeah,
managing connections with people. That stuff takes time. Um, so you get it's longer to see it work. And because it's longer to see it work, I think people are a bit more hesitant to put their hands in their pocket for it. And I totally understand that.
yeah. Anyway, we kind of run a bit long, and I've suddenly realised I've probably got to edit all the audio of this afterwards. Whatever on earth this is like on the live feeds. How can people? Well, obviously you've got your Milico website address there. How can people find out? Like, let's say somebody's working as an employee, and they're like, "This guy, I really resonate with Mike." How can they get in touch with you? How can they work with you? And yeah, just like you got 30 seconds to sell yourself even more.
Bless you. So what I'd really encourage, and there's a quote that I love. I should have looked up who said the quote, shouldn't I? And I didn't. The idea is that a flower, when a flower doesn't bloom, you
Yeah,
change its environment, you don't change the flower. So
yeah,
to help people thrive in their work, whether they're an employee, whether they are a small business owner, we created a quiz. So I'd highly encourage people going to see the quiz. That is at milico.uk, which is the web
yeah,
address sort of there, /quiz,
yeah,
milico.uk/quiz. There's two buttons, one for employee, one for small business owner, and that will take you through to the relevant quiz. The
yeah,
quizzes are principally similar, different language, same idea. And they take less than 60 seconds to fill in. It'll give you a tailored response to the way you've answered that, giving
yeah,
you suggestions about what can make life better. Plus, you get a 5-minute video. It's not meant to be longer than 5 minutes. It's around 5 minutes video from me looking at your results and an invitation to come and have half an hour call with me looking at your next steps. That is by far the most powerful thing you can do to see where you're at with your life right now in terms of your working life right now, and get some ideas of what can help you move forwards. That's super powerful, and genuinely the people that have done it have found it really, really cool. It's a bit underutilized, so it'd be awesome if more people came and had a go and used it. But definitely worth checking out. So that's the quiz. I'm also on LinkedIn at this
mm,
Mike Cole. on LinkedIn, that's a really good place to come and connect. And the other one for me is Instagram. So if you want to see bits of my life, Instagram stories is where that's at. If you want to see the more professional stuff of thoughts and sharing ideas and all those sort of conversations and things, come check me out on LinkedIn, and both of those are at This Mike Cole.
Okay. Well, thanks so much for being on the show. And this is
Thanks.
where I'm going to...
Thanks so much for inviting me along. It's been wonderful to do this. And it is always nice to see a very familiar face, as I do with you, when we travel to all these different events all around the world.
Yeah.
Well, I say around the world. You go around the world.
Well,
I
we're
don't
not
do
traveling
much.
together. I don't sign that bit.
I'd say I can almost guarantee to see you at an event, and it's lovely to know at least one person there. So always a pleasure.
Well,
Cool.
thanks to everybody who might have been putting up watching live, and thanks to people on YouTube watching in the distant future someday.
This is what God requires.